Notes 2D, direct variation. Write down the objective and essential question on your Pear Deck foldable. Objective: I can write and solve equations involving direct variation. Essential question: what is direct variation and how do I use it to predict an outcome? Let's go over the expectations for the Pear Deck. Get your Pear Deck foldables for the focus teaks covered. Go to joinpd.com and join the session during class. Record answers and work for you do examples on the Pear Deck slides. Complete this work before you do the classwork and after the homework. Watch the video quietly with headphones or follow along on the board. Vocabulary. Direct variation. A relationship between two variables that can be expressed by an equation in which one variable is equal to a constant, k, times the other. Y equals k times x. Indirect variation. Relationship between two variables in which the product is a constant. X times y equals k, or y equals k divided by x. Find the missing number. Write these down on your Pear Deck foldable. Something times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. To show the one step that you do, you divide each expression by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. That's your answer. 4 times 8 equals something. 4 times 8 is 32. 5 over 6 times something equals 15. When you want to get rid of a fraction, you flip and multiply. So we have 6 over 5, 6 over 5. The number times its reciprocal is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And 3 times 6 is 18. So your missing number is 18. 7 times something equals 56. 7 times 8 equals 56. The step would be to divide by 7. 56 divided by 7 is 8. You could have 7. You have 8 sevens inside of 8, or inside 56. On your Pear Deck slide, go ahead and try this one on your own. Pause the video, try this. 2 times something equals 7. 2 times 7 halves equals 7. To get that, you divide each term by 2. Let's solve these. K times 15 is 120. Divide each expression by 15. And if you put that in the calculator, you get 8. So 1K equals 8. 1/3 x equals 27. To get rid of a fraction, we flip and multiply. The reciprocal times the fraction is 1, so 1x equals 27 divided by 1 is 27. 27 times 3 is 81. The last one, 36 divided by something equals 9. For this one, we want to cross multiply. We can only cross multiply if there is a relation symbol in between the two expressions. There's an equal sign between these two fractions, so we can cross multiply. So we have 9x equals 36. Divide each term by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1, so 1x equals 4. On your Pear Deck slide, try this one. 24 divided by x equals 4. What is x? Pause the video, try this one. If you got x equals 6, you're correct. Cross multiply, divide each term by 4. Let's set up and solve this direct variation. The value of y varies directly proportional with x. If x equals 5, then y equals 35. What is the value of x when y equals 70? So we want to set this up as a proportion. So x equals 5 and y would be 35. We want to find the value of x when y is 70. So we're going to cross multiply. 300 350 equals 35x. Divide each term by 35. 35 divided by 35 is 1. So we have 1x equals 350 divided by 35 is 10. So x will equal 10 in this situation, a positive 10. Let's look at the next one. Hooke's law for an elastic spring states that the distance to a spring stretches varies directly as the force applied. If a force of 160 newtons stretches a spring of 5 centimeters, how much will a force of 368 newtons stretch the same spring? We want to underline, highlight, or circle our numbers. So let's say that 160 is our x, so newtons is x, and then the spring will be y. So here's our other x, and we're looking for the y. So if you set up this proportion, you have 160 over 5 equals 368 over y. And we will find this by cross multiplying. 5 times 368 and 160 times y. So you have 1,840 equals 160y. Divide each side by 160. So divide each expression by 160. So you have 11.5 centimeters equals y. Let's go to the next one. So you're going to try this one. Writing and solving with direct variation. The ticket revenue is directly related to the amount of tickets sold. Each ticket costs $5. How much would the revenue be if they sold 12 tickets? Pause the video, try this one out. Put the answer on your Pear Deck slide. 12 tickets will cost $60. If you set this up, one ticket is $5. So for 12 tickets, that would be 5 times 12, $60. If you set it up as a proportion, it would look kind of like this. 1 over 12 is equal to 5 over y. Cross multiply, 1y equals 60. 60 divided by 1 is still 60. Let's look at the next one. In an electrical circuit, the voltage across the resistor is directly proportional to the current running through the resistor. If a current of 12 amps produces 480 volts across a resistor, how many volts would a current of 1.5 amps produce across an identical resistor? So let's say that the amps are X and the volts are Y. So we're looking for the volts are Y. It's directly proportional, so let's set up our proportion. We have 12 over 480 equals 1.5 over something. Let's cross multiply. So we have 720 equals 12y. Divide each term by 12. Y equals 60. 60 volts. On your Pear Deck slide, let's type this in. Answer the question. What is direct variation and how do I use it to predict outcomes? On your Pear Deck slide, type your response in complete sentences. Notes 12E. Solving literal equations. Get your Pear Deck foldable and write down the objective and essential question. Objective. I can solve for any variable in an equation. Essential question. How can I find different units using the literal equations? Here's some vocabulary for this. Literal equation. An equation with two or more variables. Unit. A name for a measurement. M. Slope. The rate of change. B. Ordinate part of the y-intercept. 0, B is your y-intercept. B is the y part of that. Slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. We are doing these problems where you're solving for the variables. Here's your processing questions. Go down this list and go through them in order so you can get all the steps. Step 1, are my expressions simplified? If yes, you continue to the next step. If no, combine like terms from each expression. Step 2, is my variable isolated on one side? If yes, you continue to step 3. If no, add the variable terms to one side and the constant terms on the other. In step 3, is the coefficient of the variable 1? If yes, you have your solution. If no, flip and multiply. I do. Here's your algebraic steps and your verbal steps. Write these down on your Pear Deck foldables. Negative 4x plus 2y equals negative 2. We're going to solve for y. So the first thing we want to do is rewrite our equation with some space. A space for x. Okay, your next step, you want to add 4x to each expression, each side of the equation. So negative 4x plus positive 4x is 0x. Carry down your 2y equals 4x minus 2. So again, right here we want to add 4x to each expression. Okay, the last step, we want to divide each term by 2. Two divided by 2 is 1, so 1y equals 4 divided by 2 is 2, 2x minus 1. This is your slope-intercept form, where your m is 2 and your b is negative 1. Let's do the next one. 5x minus 4y equals 12. So first we rewrite our equation to give ourselves space for the x. Step 2, subtract 5x from each expression, from each side of the equation. Five x minus 5x is 0x. So we have negative 4y equals negative 5x plus 12. Okay, the next step, divide each term by negative 4. Negative 4y divided by negative 4 is 1y. 1y equals 5/4 x minus 3. That's your slope-intercept form, where your slope m is 5/4 and your b is negative 3. This was not on your pear deck or your foldable, but let's just look at this one. This one is point slope form, and we're going to change it to slope-intercept form. So what you want to do is distribute that 1/2 to each term, multiply each term. So you have y minus 1 equals 1/2 x minus 2. Because negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2. From here, we want to get rid of the negative 1 because we want y by itself. So add 1 to each side of the equation, each expression. Going from point slope to slope-intercept, as you can see, is a little bit less steps than standard to slope-intercept. So your m, your slope, is 1/2. Angle B, your y-intercept is -1. Okay, now you try this one. Pause the video. On your Pear Deck slide, go ahead and try this one out. -6x plus 3y equals -12. Solve for y, identify the slope, and the y-intercept. Your slope-intercept form should be y equals -2x plus 4, where the slope is -2 and the y-intercept is a +4. Here's your steps. Rewrite your equation to make room for x. Step 2, add 6x to each expression, each side of the equal signs. Step 3, divide each term by -3 to get the y by itself to isolate it. And then the last step is that it should be in slope-intercept form. Recall your star from 4th grade, your formula chart. We have perimeter, area, formulas. Well, now let's use that perimeter formula, the distance around, but instead of finding perimeter, let's solve for the length, L. So here's what you want to do with this kind of situation. First, you want to rewrite your equation to make room. Okay, next you want to subtract 2w. We subtract 2w from each expression because we want to isolate the L. We want the L by itself, and the 2w term is not part of the L. So subtract 2w from each expression. Now we have one more step. We want to divide each term by 2 to isolate the L, to get the L by itself. So p divided by 2 is just 1/2 p. -2 divided by 2 is a -1, so -1w. And then we have L. So this is in the L equals form. So L equals 1/2 perimeter minus the width. Now you're going to try this one on your Pear Deck. Solve for W. P equals 2L plus 2W. Try it, pause the video, use these steps for reference. Here are the steps to solve for the width. Step 1, we rewrite the equation. Step 2, subtract 2L from each expression. Step 3, divide 2 from each term to isolate our W. Now we're in the W equals form, and that's our answer. If you notice at the previous example, the only things that actually changes is that the W's and the L's are switched. Let's look at the next slide. The area, the square units of the inside. A equals side squared. Solve for the side. So first you want to write your equation, and then to get rid of a square, we take the square root. So the square root of A equals S. Let's go to the next slide. Refer to your star 8th grade science formula chart. We have density, average speed, net force, and work. So density equals mass divided by volume. D equals m over v. Density is mass over volume. That was already given to you. Let's solve for mass now. So we have D equals m over v. To get the m by itself, we want to multiply each side of the equation by v. V divided by v is 1. So mass is v times d. So we could go ahead and write volume times density. For volume, let's go ahead and look at our previous answer. We had v times d equals m. To get v by itself, we want to divide each term by d. D divided by d is 1. So our answer is volume equals mass divided by density. Okay, the next slide. We have average speed equals the total distance over the total time. S equals d over t. So the average speed, they already gave it to us. Total distance over total time. Now let's find the total distance. We want to solve for d. So if S equals d over t. To get d by itself, we want to multiply each expression, each side of the equation by t. So we have d equals t times s. So total distance equals total time times total speed, average speed. Okay, now let's find the equation for the total time. So we have t times s equals d. To get the t by itself, we would divide each term by s. So t equals d over s. So total time is the total distance divided by the average speed. Let's do this one. The work equation is work equals force times distance. W equals F times D. So work is just already given to you. Using that, we're going to find the equation for force. So we have W equals force times distance. To get the force by itself, you divide each expression, each term, in this case, by D. So we have force equals W over D. So force is work over distance. Now let's find the distance equation. We're going to solve for D. So let's start back with W equals F times D. To get D by itself, we divide each term by F. So D equals W over F. Distance equals work over force. Okay, now you're going to try this one on your Pear Deck slide. The net force is mass times acceleration. Solve for each variable separately. Okay, so net force is mass times acceleration. Mass is the net force divided by the acceleration, and the acceleration is the net force over the mass. On your Pear Deck slide, type your daily reflection. How can I find slope-intercept form from standard form? How do you change from ax plus by equals c to y equals mx plus b? Type your responses on your Pear Deck. Use complete sentences.